Welcome all to this presentation on grammatical gender in Samskritam. Before going into the presentation proper, let me give an outline of it. We will start with gender as a concept in languages in general and proceed to have an idea of the gender system in Samskritam. Then the linguistic concept of grammatical gender will be introduced, followed by the grammatical gender as seen in the structure of Samskritam. Then the grammatical gender as reflected by the different markers in Samskritam will be illustrated in comparison with English and Tamil. Then, with a brief explanation on the impact of grammatical gender and the advantages of having it in languages, the presentation will be concluded. Now, let us start with what is gender. This concept of gender is seemingly insignificant, but truly is a very interesting and fascinating category in languages. It is a subclass embedded within a grammatical class or is a part of speech of a language like noun, pronoun, adjective, verb, etc. It is gender, of course, along with the other grammatical categories that determines the agreement that makes the sentence grammatically correct by a selection of other words or grammatical forms that suit the particular context. In some languages, gender is arbitrary in the sense that there is no correspondence with the biological sex and the gender assigned to the words. In other languages, it is semantic in the sense that it corresponds to the biological sense. Similarly, in some other languages, the concept of gender is central and pervasive in the sense that the role played by it is very significant and it is totally absent in others. Based on this, languages are classified into three as genderless, natural gendered, and grammatical gendered languages. Under genderless language, we have Hungarian. For a natural gendered language, we have English, Tamil, etc. And for grammatical gendered languages, we have German, Sanskrit, and so on. Now coming to the concept of gender in Samskritam, we all know that lingam is the term that is used to denote to gender, and it is threefold as Pullinga, Strilinga, and Napumsakalinga. Pullinga is masculine, Strilinga is feminine, and Napumsakalinga is neuter gender. We have already seen that gender assigned in Samskritam is arbitrary. There is no correspondence between the gender assigned and the biological sex. So it is not semantic. But at the same time, it does not totally exclude semantic gender. There are instances wherein we have biologically corresponding gender assignment to the words, and majority of the cases we have arbitrary. For example, Naraha, which means a man, is Pullinga or masculine. Nari, which means a lady, is feminine. And Yanam, which means a vehicle, is Napumsakalinga. So all these correspond to the biological sex. So these are instances of a few semantic gender assignments as far as Sanskrit is concerned, and in majority of the cases we have only arbitrary gender. For example, Talaha means a lock, it is masculine in gender, and Lekhani, which means a pen, is feminine, and Mitram is Napumsakalinga or neuter gender, which means friend. We have also instances wherein a single thing has the words in all the three genders. For example, wife has words in all the three genders. Daraha is masculine, Bharya is feminine, and Kalatram is neuter. In all the three genders, we have words to represent wife, to convey wife in Samskritam. So, Padam or word in Samskritam is classified on the basis of gender as Alingaka, which has no gender at all, Niyatalingaka, which has fixed gender, Dvilingaka, which has two genders assigned, and Trilingaka, which has three genders assigned to it. So now we will look into illustrations or examples for the gender-based word classification in Sanskritam. We already saw that Padam has the first classification as Alingaka, for which no gender is there. An example for that is Avyaya. All the Avyayas are indeclinables. They do not have any marking of gender. So Sadrisham Trishu Lingeshu. So which remains to be the same in all the three genders. That is said to be an Avyaya. So here Avyayas are examples for Alingaka Shabdas. Then for Niyatalingaka Shabdas, which have the words which have fixed genders, we have Vrikshaha, tree, Pullinga, Lata, creeper, Strilinga, and Phalam, fruit, Napumsakalinga. So for these things, the words which come under Niyatalinga, the gender is fixed. Now moving on to Dvilingaka padas, we have got some various types of Dvilingaka padas. So we will see it separately in the next slide. And moving on to the Trilingaka padas, we have Tataha, Tati and Tatam. Tata means shore or banks of a river. So here what we have to remember is the lexical entry should be 1 and the gender assigned should be 3. For that same lexical single entry, 3 genders should be assigned. Then only we can have Trilingaka padas. In the previous slide, we saw 3 words in all the 3 genders for wife. That cannot be treated as a Trilingaka pada because they are 3 different lexical items. Dara is a different lexical item, Kalatram is a different lexical item, and Bharya is a different lexical item. They are 3 different lexical items for which each and every gender was assigned. So that cannot be treated as a Trilingaka pada. Here Tata is a single lexical entry for which 3 genders are assigned. So here we have this as an example for Trilingaka pada. That is very, very important, whether it be Dvilingaka or Trilingaka. The lexical entry should be 1 and the gender assigned should be 2 or 3 respectively for Dvilingaka and Trilingaka pada. We should remember this. This is very. Now coming to Dvilingaka padas, we have 3 categories. Here you have Pullinga and Napumsakalinga combination, Strilinga and Pullinga combination, feminine and masculine combination, and Strilinga and Napumsakalinga combination, feminine and neuter combination. So under the combination of Pullinga and Napumsakalinga, masculine and neuter, we have Shariram, Shariraha, Gatram, Gatraha, which means body in all cases, both. So Sharira is a single lexical entry for which 2 genders, Pullinga and Napumsakalinga, were assigned. So we have the forms as Shariram in neuter gender and Shariraha in masculine gender. Similarly, Gatra is the single lexical entry for which 2 genders, masculine and neuter, were assigned. And we have Gatram in neuter and Gatraha as Pullinga or masculine. So these are the instances, examples for Pullinga and Napumsakalinga combination. Now we move on to Strilinga and Pullinga combination, wherein you have Jwala, Jwalaha, which means fire. Jwala is a single lexical entry for which feminine and masculine genders were assigned. So we have Jwala in feminine and Jwalaha in masculine. Similarly, Marichi, which means rays, can take up both masculine and feminine forms. Similarly, Bangaha, Tarangaha, Urmihi, these 3 words which all mean, these are the synonyms of tides, waves. All these 3 words also can take up feminine and masculine forms. So these come under Stri Pumsayoho Dvilingaka pada, which can take up Strilinga and Pullinga. Then under Strilinga and Napumsakalinga, we have 2 types, simple words and compound words. Here we have Maitri and Maitriyam, Maithunika, Maithunakam, which means pair. So here you have Strilinga and Napumsakalinga. Strilinga and Napumsakalinga. So for a single lexical entry, Maitra and Maithunika, 2 genders, Strilinga and Napumsakalinga, were assigned. So you have Maitri and Maitriyam. in feminine and neuter, and Maithunakam and Maithunika. So neuter and feminine. And now we also have another thing for samasas also. Even in the samasas, we have dvilingaka padas, Nrisena and Nrisenam. Nrisena means army of men. Here Nrisena is a single lexical entry. It is a samasa compound word. You have Nrisena in feminine and Nrisenam in napumsakalinga. Vrikshachaya, Vrikshachayam. Vrikshachaya means shade of a tree. So here you have it in the feminine form and this is in the neuter form. So even in case of some of the samasas, we have dvilingaka padas. So this is about the examples for dvilingaka padas. Now we move on to the criteria for grammatical gender. Now what do we mean by a grammatical gender? So there is a noun and the gender of it should be, if there is a grammatical gender, it should be reflected. It should be represented by the words which precede or succeed it, which come near that particular noun. So that is very important. So all the nouns in a language are grouped into one class. This is first. And the second point is there is a grammatical agreement between the nouns and their dependent words or elements, example, articles, adjectives, verbs, etc. Only when these two conditions are there, we have grammatical gender. As far as Sanskrit is concerned, we have a big word classes in Samskritam. Under nouns, we call it as Subanta. So words in Sanskritam are broadly divided into two as Subanta and Tinganta. Under Subanta, you have nouns, both inflectional and derivative, Namapada, Samasa, in all Pullinga, Strilinga and Napumsakalinga, and Tadhitapada, Kridanta, in all Pullinga, Strilinga and Napumsakalinga. And you have verbs or dhatus in Tinganta. In this also you have both inflectional and derivative. In the Dashaganas, you have more than 2,200 roots divided into 10 ganas or groups in Samskritam, and all those also we have Parasmapada and Atmanepada and Ubhayapada classifications. All those will come under this, and Nijanta causatives, Sannanta desideratives, Yanganta frequentives, and Namadhatu denominatives. You have all these classes here, and of course indeclinables avyayas. Under avyayas you have avyaya, upasarga and nipata. Due to the functional differences we have these names for them, and pronouns also come under Subantas, Sarvanama padas, adjectives, Visheshana pada, and Sankhya means number. So number is also in a way an adjective. So this is also brought under here. In Samskritam, adjective takes the gender, number and case of the noun it qualifies. So this is also declined as far as Sanskrit language is concerned, which is very unique to this. And we have adverbs, avyayas as adverbs also. So these are the word classes. And now we move on to the gender markers. So grammatical gender is marked. Just now we saw. So it gets reflected. So the nearby words are changed. It undergoes change. When there is a grammatical gender, there will be a change in the words. And the grammatical gender markers generally are personal pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, nouns, adjectives, verbs, numerals. All these gender markers contain morphological information about the grammatical gender consistent with the grammatical gender of the noun they qualify. So it varies from language to language. So all the languages need not have all these markers. It differs from language to language. It depends upon the structure of that particular language. So as far as the gender marker variations in the languages, we can take up gender markers in Tamil now, and we can see that verbs serve as gender markers. For example, avan vandan, aval vandal, adu vandadu. For all the variations here in the pronoun masculine, feminine and neuter, the verb, in the verb it is reflected. Vandan, vandal, vandadu. So here the verb, as far as Tamil is concerned, verb is a marker, gender marker. But The other cases, they do not mark gender. For example, whether it be a numeral or an adjective, it does not mark gender. For example, oru payyan, oru pen, oru palam. It remains to be oru remains to be the same in all the three cases. It does not differ for masculine, feminine or neuter. Similarly, nalla payyan, nalla pen, nalla palam. Nalla remains to be the same. It does not change. So gender is not reflected in numerals or adjectives as far as Tamil is concerned. And similarly, determiners. Anda manidan, anda pen, anda palam. So for masculine, feminine and neuter, anda remains to be the same and it is not marked. So determiners are not marked for gender as far as Tamil is concerned. And relative clauses also. Paditha payyan, paditha pen, vilunda palam. So here also paditha remains to be the same. There is no variation. There is no marking of gender in this. As far as Tamil is concerned, verb serves as a mark of gender. So gender marker is verb in Tamil. Then as far as English is concerned, it has no grammatical gender at all. The current day English, the modern English, it has no grammatical gender because there is no variation in the verb. He goes, she goes, it goes. Goes remain to be the same. Good boy, good girl, good book. Good. The adjective remains to be the same. There is no change. That boy, that girl, that book. This boy, this girl, this book. This or that remain to be the same and there is no variation. There is no change reflected in the determiners for masculine, feminine or neuter. And similarly for numerals also, 2 boys, 2 girls, 2 books. No change in the numerals also. So as far as English is concerned, there is no gender marker at all. If at all we can talk of it, we can say that he, she, it. So in the pronouns, it is there. That's all. So truly, there is no grammatical gender as far as modern English is concerned. Now, we have to take up gender markers in Samskritam. Linguistically, grammatical gender system is a specific form of noun class system in which the division of noun classes forms an agreement system with another aspect of the language like adjectives, articles, pronouns or verbs. So on one hand we have nouns and on the other hand we have adjectives, articles, pronouns, verbs, etc. And there should be an agreement between the two to form grammatically well-formed sentences. So the grammatical gender of a noun manifests itself in two main ways. One, in the modifications that the noun itself undergoes and in the modifications of the other related words. So we have noun on one side and the related words on the other. If the noun itself undergoes change for gender change, then we can say that it has grammatical gender. And if the related words undergo change according to the gender of the noun, in agreement with the noun, then we can say we have a grammatical gender. As far as Sanskrit is concerned, we have grammatical gender in both ways. In the first type, the noun itself gets modified. How? We have a set of 7 feminine suffixes laid down in 72 sutras of Panini. With these 7 feminine suffixes, we generate the feminine forms, corresponding feminine forms directly from the words in masculine gender. For example, when we have ajaha, we add the feminine suffix stop to it and derive aja, which is its feminine counterpart. Ajaha, aja. Similarly, shwa, ajaha, aja is goat, sheep. Then shwa, shuni, male dog and female dog. So shwa is the male masculine form, and from that, by adding the feminine suffix, we derived shuni, yeep. Then we have swashuraha, swashruhu. We have father-in-law and mother-in-law. So here also we have feminine and masculine. So we see that the noun itself, special suffixes or feminine suffixes are ordained in the language for the specific purpose. Vidusha, vidwan, vidushi, adhyapakaha, adhyapika. So to derive such male forms, so we add the feminine suffixes to the male forms to derive the feminine forms. So the noun itself reflects gender. Then coming to the related words. In Sanskritam, adjectives, numerals, determinants, personal pronouns, demonstrative pronouns, and so on. We are going to see illustration for each and everything. They reflect gender. They serve as gender markers. But in Sanskritam, verbs do not reflect gender. In Tamil, we saw that verb reflects gender. Avan vandan, aval vandal, adu vandadu. So it got reflected. But as far as Samskritam is concerned, it is not reflected in the verb. Saha gacchati, sa gacchati, tat gacchati. It remains to be the same. Gacchati, gacchati, gacchati remains to be the same. So verb is not a gender marker. But in relative clauses, we have. Now, taking up adjectives and numerals as the first markers of gender, we will see what is the nature of adjective and numeral in Sanskritam first, and then we move on to the example. Adjectives are declined in Sanskritam for gender, number, and case of the noun they qualify. So, adjectives take the gender, number, and case of the noun they qualify. That is very important. Similarly, numerals are also declined for the gender, number, and case. Of course, this is only for the first four numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. From the fifth, it remains to be the same for all. They are not marked for gender. Now, let us see more illustrations. Now, taking up adjectives and numerals. Here you see, here we have instances for adjective serving as a gender marker in Sanskritam. Purushaha, that is the noun. Stri, the noun. Pushpam, noun. So Purushaha, man in masculine. Stri, female in feminine. Pushpam, flower in neuter. For that now we have the adjectives. Sundaraha, Purushaha. Sundari, Stri. Sundaram, Pushpam. See here Sundaraha, Sundari, Sundaram. There is a change in the adjectives. So adjectives reflect gender as far as Samskritam is concerned. Similarly for numerals, Ekaha, Balakaha. Eka, Balika. Ekam, Phalam. One boy, one girl, and one fruit. Here Ekaha, Eka, Ekam. Masculine, feminine, and neuter. There is gender reflection in numerals also. I already told that till 4 only for numerals it is marked with gender. So we can see such cases dvau, dve, dve, masculine, feminine, and neuter. 2. Trayaha, tisraha, trini, masculine, feminine, and neuter for 3. Chatvaraha, chatasraha, and chatwari for 4. So adjectives and numerals serve as gender markers in Sanskritam, whereas in Tamil or in English they are not marked. Nalla aan, nalla pen, nalla palam. Oru aan, oru pen, oru palam. Nalla or oru, they do not mark any gender. Similarly, good boy, good girl, good book. One boy, one girl, one book. They show no change. So in these two languages, adjectives and numerals are not gender markers. But as far as Sanskrit is concerned, adjectives and numerals are marked for gender. Then, taking up demonstratives, we have Yeshaha Balakaha, Yesha Balika, Yetat Palam. Now, we have three demonstratives. Yeshaha, Ayam, Saha. Normally in English we have this, that. In Tamil we have inda, anda. In Sanskritam also, I am saha. I am is this, saha is that. But what is this yesha? If somebody is very close to you, this boy who is very close to you, this boy, he is a bit away but still he is near you, means I am. If he is far away, that boy, saha. Yeshaha, I am saha. So that is the difference here. So demonstratives. Yeshaha balakaha. Yesha balika. Yetat phalam. So this boy who is very close to you, this girl and this fruit. Then ayam balakaha, iyam balika, idam phalam. So this girl who is somewhat near to you and iyam balika, this girl, idam phalam, this fruit. Then saha balakaha, sa balika, tat phalam, that boy, that girl, that fruit. So here in all the three demonstratives, we have gender reflected, gender marked. Yeshaha, yesha, yetat. Ayam, iyam, idam. Saha, sa, tat. So gender is marked in the demonstrative. So demonstrative pronouns serve as gender markers as far as Sanskrit is concerned, but it is not so in English or Tamil. This boy, this girl, this book, that boy, that girl, that book, there is no change. So this remains to be the same and that remains to be the same. Here also, in the an, in the pen, in the param, and the an, and the pen, and the param, and the in the remains to be the same. So there is no change reflected. So the demonstratives do not mark gender. They are not gender markers. So here we cannot talk of grammatical gender in these cases. But as such, Tamil has grammatical gender since verb is marked, but English has no gender marker, so it has no grammatical gender. Now, taking up personal pronouns. In the place of they, in Sanskrit, we have te, taha, tani. They in masculine, feminine and neuter. It is marked here again. Then for them, which remains to be they and them remains to be the same for all the three genders in English. But in Sanskrit, we have for they, te, taha, tani. And for them, we have tam, taha, tani. I have given the other elaborate forms here. Saha taute, sate, taha, tatte, tani. Tam, tautam, tam, te, taha, tatte, tani. Respectively, this is for they in all the three genders. Sorry, all the three genders and numbers. And them for all the three genders and numbers I have given here. So there is variation in all the three genders and numbers. Similarly, for interrogative pronouns also, we have gender markers in Samskritam. Kaha, ka, kim for who. This is masculine. Kaha, who, masculine. Ka, who, feminine. Kim, what, neuter. Then for whom, kam, kam, kim. Similarly, I have given all the forms here, all the gender variations in the numbers also. So, kaha, kau, ke, ka, ke, kaha, kim, ke, kani for who. And then this is masculine, singular, dual and plural. Feminine, singular, dual and plural. Neuter, singular, dual and plural. Similarly, for whom I have given here kam, kau, kan, kam, ke, kaha, kim, ke, kani. Masculine, singular, dual, plural. Feminine, singular, dual, plural. And neuter, singular, dual, plural. So for whom. So in all these cases, personal pronouns also serve as gender markers as far as Sanskrit is concerned, which could not be seen in the other languages. Now, taking up the relative pronouns. Yaha yau ye, yaye yaha, yat ye yani. So, the boy who went away. Yaha balaha, yaha gataha. So we have such cases. Yaha, relative pronoun. So yaha yau ye is for masculine, singular, dual and plural. Yaha yau ye for masculine, singular, dual and plural. Yaye yaha for feminine, singular, dual and plural. And yat ye yani for neuter, singular, dual and plural. So relative pronouns are marked for gender. So they serve as gender markers. Coming to Krudanta Padas, I have given for example Ikta Pratyaya and Shanach Pratyaya. There are still more. Gataha, gata, gatam. So Gataha, the man who went away. Gata, the lady who went away. And gatam, that object or that neuter thing which has gone away. So gataha, gata and gatam. Diyamanaha, diyamana, diyamanam. So if the object that is given away is masculine, feminine and neuter. So here Kridanta padas are also marked for gender. Then coming to tadhitas or the derivative nouns, noun derived from nouns. Here it is verb. We derive nouns from verbs. Here we derive nouns from nouns. Dasharatihi is Dasharathasya apatyam Puman. The son of Dasharatha is Dasharati. Then we have Maithili. Mithilayaha apatyam stri Maithili. The daughter of the country of Mithila. So Maithili. So here also gender is marked. And coming to the relative clauses, Gachan Purushaha, Gachanti Stri, Gachatyanam. So the man who has gone away, the lady who has gone away, and the vehicle which has gone away. Gachan, Gachanti, Gachat. So the relative clause structure is something different here. We have to note it. It is not something like in English which comes later. It comes before. So Gachan Purushaha, Gachanti Stri and Gachatyanam. Gachan, Gachanti, Gachat. So relative clauses are also marked for gender because here you have only the pratyas, krit pratyas here. Then sannanta padas, under that we have desideratives. There also we have gender markings. Kartum icha is chikirsha. So that is desire to do is chikirsha. And from that we derive the verb chikirshati. And we also add shatru pratyaya to it. Chikirshan saha, he who is desirous of doing. She who is desirous of doing. That which is desirous of doing. Chikirshanne, chikirshanti, chikirshat. So here also gender is marked. Then under nijanta padas or causative forms, patati, patayati, reads, making somebody read. So causative forms, patayan sa, patayanti sa, patayat tat. So he who was making somebody read, she who was making somebody read, that which was making somebody read. So in all these cases also we can see all these serve as markers of gender. So many more reflections of gender are there in Sanskrit, but just for example I have cited some. Still more are there. So thus we can see that even with these instances we can see that gender system is vibrant in Sanskrit. Now we have to look into the impact of grammatical gender. Grammatical gender is a very favorite and interesting field for research for the psycholinguists. They say that grammatical gender has a great impact on various cognitive processes, including memory, categorization, personalization, assigning properties linked to the biological sex of objects, etc. For example, something is neuter in gender, but we assign some male attributes or female attributes to that object. In German language, the word for key is masculine in gender, and so when they view a key, they assign the property of being heavy and metallic to it. But in Spanish language, it is feminine, the same word for key, it is not a key. So it is feminine for them. So when they view a key, they focus on the attributes of being shiny and beautiful. So assigning masculine or feminine attributes to inanimate objects, that is also made possible by the grammatical gender of that particular language. So the grammatical gender affects the way we describe objects. This is what is most required for languages to build up beautiful literature. So now we come to the advantages of having grammatical gender. If a language has a grammatical gender, what are the advantages it has? Grammatical gender makes it to have more flexible syntax, because once we have grammatical gender, it is glued to the word at the end. So wherever the position of the word is shifted, no harm is caused to the meaning it conveys. So there is no hard and fast rule that the word order should be strictly followed. So we have flexible syntax. This is very important. And this flexible syntax is very useful in poetry, both in composing and comprehending. Because while composing, we have to use several prosody. So for that purpose, the arrangement of words, it is very important. Since we have grammatical gender, we need not worry that the adjective should be only before the noun. It can even follow or come somewhere later on. We can later on construe it. This is with regard to composing. And coming to comprehension, since we have grammatical gender, the adjectives of that particular noun will be in the same case, number or gender. So it is very easy to identify which adjectives are for which nouns. So it is very easy to comprehend them. To make a word order from the poetry, it is very easy. It is very helpful once we have grammatical gender in the language. And this grammatical gender also helps in processing and speeding up, categorizing the objects by semantically related pairs or semantically unrelated pairs. What is semantically related? What are the words that are semantically related? What are not? Since we can easily identify that, we can process and categorize the objects very easily. So this is another advantage of having grammatical gender in the language. And normally I have heard that Sanskrit has a gender system which does not satisfy Paguttarivu. That is because it is purposely made for that purpose. Regular thinking, if we have thinking, we don't have any choice for creativity. This grammatical gender provides such an opportunity that it triggers creativity. It prompts you to visualize. It prompts you to personify. This personification and visualization prompts your creativity, and this is most required for your literature to make it rich. So, grammatical gender which does not correspond to biological gender. See, for example, when we have a tree in masculine gender and a creeper in feminine, why it is assigned so? There is a tree and the creeper is there on the tree. So when we have a description in an erotic condition, erotic situation, the Nayaka and the Nayika, then the Vriksha and the creeper handily comes to our comparison. So it helps in making literature rich. And further, if there is a language, there are a lot of ambiguities involved. But when grammatical gender, this helps in disambiguation of the language. So that is the greatest benefit, advantage of having grammatical gender. So grammatical gender is a boon to a language. To conclude, Sanskrit has several markers at different levels that reflect gender, and it clearly shows that grammatical gender system is very vibrant in Samskritam. This grammatical gender makes the structure of the language systematic, easy to comprehend. Grammatical gender enriches the literature. Finally, yes, it is beautiful to hear talk about grammatical gender, but it is difficult to master the gender system that is there in Samskritam. That is a complaint of many, but it can be very easily resolved by the vast and rich koshas available. When you learn Amara Kosha, then there is no difficulty at all involved. It is very easy to learn. Then there is no difficulty in knowing the gender. Similarly, when things are learned in the traditional way of learning Samskritam, then it is going to be further more easy. We are away from the traditional way of learning Samskritam. We are in a modern way in which we skip a lot. That is why we find it difficult. So the difficulty is due to not following the traditional way and not being exposed to the kosha literature. Otherwise, it is very easy. So let us learn the koshas and practice the traditional way of learning Sanskrit. Resolve the gender problem, gender identification problem in Samskritam, identify it easily, and enjoy the benefits of grammatical gender. Thank you.